Biblical texts, particularly those from the Old and New Testaments found in the Bible, contain various references to colossal and malignant creatures. These biblical monsters can often be depicted as symbols of chaos, divine judgment, or supernatural power. But to some believers, these terrible creatures may have once actually existed upon the earth, and might very well exist again according to some biblical prophecy. While the texts do not always provide the explicit dimensions for these creatures, interpretations and approximations can be made based on the descriptions provided in the scriptures. Though it should be noted that the sizes detailed in today's episode could very well differ depending on one's interpretation of the monsters in question, and whilst this is mostly a personal deduction, the biblical descriptions alone should be enough to exemplify just how big these beasts may be. Locusts of Abaddon. The Locusts of Abaddon, simply known as locusts, appear in the Book of Revelation and contribute to the prophetic narrative that everything is coming to an end. With John at the helm, he tells of all the destructive things that will transpire during the end times, including the 7 trumpets of the angels, each of which signify a different degree of torture that befall man during those times. It is the 5th trumpet that concerns the locusts, those who are described as fearsome creatures resembling horses that are prepared for battle. They have crowns on their heads, suggesting some holy authority, and faces that resemble humans, suggesting some kind of intelligence and strategic thinking. They, as specified by John in Revelation, emerge from the abyss and are given a power similar to scorpions, whereby they torture humanity and inflict great pain upon those who have not been chosen by God. Now, by some interpretations, these are not typical insects, but rather some kind of mutated abomination that resemble horses in battle, who possess faces that resemble humans. Based on such a comparison, there are those who would estimate that the locust could be the size of a fully grown warhorse, giant insectoid or humanoid creatures that might very well be near enough the same size as us. The First Beast. The first beast is primarily described in the Book of Revelation, specifically in chapter 13. In this chapter, the Apostle John witnesses a vision of a beast rising out of the sea, possessing 10 horns and 7 heads. The beast resembles a leopard, with feet like a bear and a mouth like a lion. The complexity and combination of such animalistic features are not only mind-baffling for us to comprehend, but they also suggest a diverse and formidable nature of the creature, one that neither John the Apostle nor us the reader is ready to deal with. John tells us, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion." The description suggests a monstrous hybrid creature with an expansive size, that which has come to symbolize powerful empires or forces. Its dimensions are not specified, but given its composite nature of a leopard, a bear, and a lion, it might be suggested that this monster is no bigger than that of a corporeal leopard, bear, or lion, ranking it anywhere between 3 to 5 feet. If the creature is able to stand upright as a bear does, it's possible that the first beast can reach up to heights of 7 to 8 feet. The Second Beast. The second beast is mainly described in the Book of Revelation, specifically in chapter 13, alongside the first beast. It emerges from the earth and possesses horns like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. This seemingly contradictory image highlights the deceptive nature and hidden intentions of the second beast. John tells us, "And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." This creature, also known as the false prophet, symbolizes deceptive power and authority. Its size is less of a focus in the description, emphasizing its role and its characteristics rather than its dimensions. Because of its association to a lamb, it's possible that this creature was anywhere between 2 to 4 feet, rendering it as one of the smaller creatures. However, a beast that is only 2 to 4 feet might not have struck John as being particularly compelling, especially if it did look like a lamb. John tells us that he sees the beast coming out of the earth, suggesting that whatever it was, it burrowed from underground and made such a show of emerging that John couldn't have missed it. It gives us the idea that this second beast must have been large enough to capture John's attention, and that as it spoke like a dragon, it might very well have possessed a body that was far more diabolical than a mere lamb. You'll also notice that John only tells us that the creature's horns were like a lamb, not that it was a lamb itself. So with this in mind, we're unfortunately at a loss in attempting to determine the rest of its characteristics. The Beasts of Daniel. As we delve into the book of Daniel, we are transported to a time when the Israelites found themselves in captivity in Babylon. It is within this foreign land that Daniel, a young and devout Israelite, rises to prominence in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar. In Daniel's dream, he sees a succession of 4 beasts emerging from the tumultuous sea. These creatures, each distinct in its form and characteristics, symbolize powerful kingdoms and rulers that would shape the course of history. The lion with eagle's wings represents the Babylonian Empire, with its majestic strength and swift conquests. The bear with 3 ribs in its mouth symbolizes the Medo-Persian Empire, voracious in its appetite for expansion and domination. The leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads represents the Greco-Macedonian Empire, marked by its unparalleled speed and the fragmented rule of Alexander the Great's successors. Finally, the terrifying beast with 10 horns and iron teeth, and an additional horn speaking pompous words, foretells the Roman Empire and the rise of its oppressive and blasphemous leader. The first beast in Daniel's vision is described as a lion with eagle's wings. The first was like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground, so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it. This creature combines the attributes of a lion, the king of the beasts, and an eagle, the king of the birds, symbolizing power, majesty, and speed. While its size is not explicitly stated, the fact that it ends up standing on 2 feet certainly gives it a formidable height. A regular lion standing upright could potentially reach up to 7 feet, whilst the wingspan of a regular fully grown eagle can see its wings easily reach anywhere between 3 to 5 feet. With this in mind, one might argue that the first beast would resemble something very close to an amalgamation of these 2 animals, something that is certainly very unusual and eye-catching, but not something that is particularly gigantic. The same might be said for the second beast, as Daniel tells us, "And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. It was told, 'Get up and eat your fill of flesh.'" The bear represents a powerful yet somewhat lopsided force, perhaps indicating uneven strength or territory. Its raised side may symbolize aggression or dominance in a particular direction. As the passage does not give us any more to go on in terms of the bear's characteristics, it might be assumed that this bear was no different from a regular bear, placing it at somewhere between 4 to 5 feet when on all fours. However, again, seeing as this beast captures Daniel's attention in the first place, there is reason to believe that this bear may have been considerably larger than average. This is also true for the third beast, where Daniel tells us that, "After that, I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and was given authority to rule." The leopard, known for its speed and agility, is here depicted as an even more formidable creature with multiple heads and wings. The 4 wings suggest swift movement, while the 4 heads imply authority and control over various domains. Given this description of a leopard with 3 additional heads and 4 wings upon its back, the leopard would have definitely stood out to Daniel and demanded some kind of recognition. However, as the Bible does not specify the size or weight of the beast in question, one might have to rely on the measurements of an actual leopard, placing it anywhere between 1 to 2 feet tall, with a length of up to 6 feet. The fourth beast is the hardest to categorize, simply because of how ambiguous it appears to be. Daniel describes it as, "After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a fourth beast, terrifying and frightening, and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims, and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. Unlike the previous beasts, the fourth beast does not resemble any known animal, but is instead described as a monstrous and destructive force. Its iron teeth and 10 horns signify immense strength, authority, and destructive power. Because this beast is portrayed as far more fearsome and dominating than the others, it could be imagined as a gigantic, monstrous creature. Yet without knowing some more specifics about the beast, it's impossible to really know how tall it could have been, nor how much it might have weighed." Behemoth. In the realm of biblical monsters, one entity stands out as a true colossus: Behemoth. This beast, mentioned primarily in the Book of Job, has captivated readers with its immense size and mysterious nature. Yet despite the allure of such a terrible beast, the Behemoth doesn't actually have a significant role in the Bible. In fact, some might say that Behemoth is nothing more but a bit of a flex by the biblical God to show Job, who was going through a bit of a doubt in regards to his God's powers and purpose, just how powerful he really was. Essentially, what the biblical God tries to teach Job is that there is much about the world that he doesn't know, and that no man can really understand God's ways, nor life itself, because there is much more to the world that we have not yet perceived. Behemoth essentially becomes an example that God provides to Job, allowing him to behold the monster to illustrate his point. Job is told by God, "Look at Behemoth, which I made along with you, which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like cedar. The sinews of its thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze, its limbs like rods of iron. It ranks first among the works of God, yet its maker can approach it with his sword. The hills bring it their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby. Under the lotus plants it lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. The lotuses conceal it in their shadow, the poplars by the stream surround it. A raging river does not alarm it. It is secure, though the Jordan should surge against its mouth. Can anyone capture it by the eyes, or trap it and pierce its nose?" Scholars have debated whether the Behemoth represents a real creature, such as a hippopotamus or an elephant, or if it is a mystical beast symbolizing great power. The description of its tail as a cedar suggests a massive, powerful appendage, which leads some to believe that the Behemoth could be imagined as a dinosaur-like creature, such as a sauropod. If interpreted this way, the Behemoth could easily reach lengths of 50 to 100 feet, and weigh up to 80 tons. The Nephilim. Known for their extraordinary size and strength, the Nephilim were the giants of the Bible, beings capable of immense devastation. Despite these creatures receiving only brief mentions in the Genesis tale, the Nephilim have gone on to invoke a sense of awe, intrigue, and also outright fear in both the characters that witness them in the Bible and in modern believers today. In the apocryphal Book of Enoch, the Nephilim are said to be as tall as 300 cubits, which translates to around 450 feet. However, this measurement is generally considered symbolic, representing their great power rather than a literal height. Most biblical scholars suggest a more realistic height of around 9 to 12 feet, which aligns with the latter descriptions of giants in the Bible, such as Goliath, who is estimated to be around 9 feet tall. Leviathan. Leviathan is a sea monster described in the Book of Job, Psalms, and Isaiah. Leviathan is depicted as a massive, powerful creature that only God alone can tame. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook, or tie down its tongue with a rope? Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between. Leviathan is often envisioned as a giant sea serpent, or dragon. The description in Job 41 portrays it as an immensely large creature, with a body covered in impenetrable scales. Ancient interpretations and modern depictions often compare it to a creature of enormous proportions, possibly akin to a supersized crocodile, or some kind of sea dragon. Given the descriptions, if Leviathan were a sea serpent or dragon, it could realistically have ranged from anywhere between 100 to 300 feet in length, comparable to or larger than the largest known sea creatures. The reasoning behind this deduction involves comparing Leviathan to that of the largest sea creature, the blue whale, which can grow up to 100 feet in length. As God tells Job that Leviathan has no equal on earth, one might be correct in assuming that Leviathan would far exceed the size of the blue whale. Naturally though, considering the Bible does not give us any measurements, and considering the mythological nature of the beast, it's impossible to really determine a reliable estimation. The dragon. One of, if not the most prolific monsters in the Bible, the dragon has more than earned its place amongst the most horrific monsters in the Holy Book. With its 7 heads, 10 horns, and scaly red body, the dragon requires very little description to convey its fearsome appearance, let alone its nature. Its tail is capable of sweeping the stars out of the sky. It goes head to head against the angels of God, and even in defeat, it spews water from its mouth like a gushing river. It's no wonder that the dragon is so feared amongst readers, and it's no wonder why the author of Revelation, where the dragon appears, is described with such horrifying detail, because it is later identified with Lucifer, the fallen angel, and then as Satan himself. While the text does not give us an exact size, the dragon is described as having a tail that swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon's size can be viewed as symbolic, representing vast power and reach rather than a literal physical measurement. But if we were to take it literally, this imagery suggests a creature of unimaginable size, possibly spanning thousands of miles when considering the cosmic scale. As always guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. Until next time.